They said he was just a troublemaker from the wrong side of town. The cuffs on his wrists said, "Guilty." The judge thought it'd be easy, humiliate him, put him in his place, and make an example of him. But when 17-year-old Marcus Freeman opened his mouth, the entire courtroom went silent. What happened next made headlines and reminded America of a powerful truth. Justice doesn't come from the robe you wear. Sometimes, it comes from the voice you tried to silence. Marcus Freeman was just another name on a case file. That's how the system saw him. A 17-year-old black high school senior from Eastwood Heights, one of the poorest neighborhoods in Atlanta. He wasn't a thug. He wasn't a criminal. He was the captain of the debate team, a straight-A student, a self-taught pianist, a quiet storm with a mind like a scalpel. But none of that mattered on a rainy Friday night. Marcus was walking home from a volunteer event at the local rec center when flashing red and blue lights blinded him. 2 officers jumped out, guns drawn, no questions asked. "Hands on your head." Confused, Marcus complied. But he wasn't fast enough for their liking. He was slammed to the pavement, knees in his back, cuffs around his wrists. Why? Because a white woman a few blocks away had reported a suspicious black male in a hoodie. That's all it took. They searched his backpack, books, a bottle of water, a copy of the U.S. Constitution he carried for debate practice. But that didn't stop them from booking him. The charge? Resisting arrest and obstructing an investigation. The truth? He was guilty of walking while black. 3 days later, Marcus sat in a courtroom that smelled like dust, wood polish and power. His public defender barely glanced at him. Across the room sat Judge Ronald Whitaker, white, 58, with a reputation for tough love sentencing. To him, Marcus wasn't a student or a scholar. He was a symbol of what he thought was wrong with the youth, entitled, disrespectful, needing correction. Judge Whitaker adjusted his glasses and leaned forward. "So, Mr. Freeman, you think you're special?" Marcus said nothing. He knew this wasn't about the law. This was theater, and he was being cast as the villain. The judge smirked. "Do you know why you're really here? Not just for this case. You're here because this country is falling apart. Because your generation doesn't respect authority." A few people in the gallery nodded. Marcus clenched his jaw. Then the judge leaned back and laughed. "Let's see if you know anything about this country you think mistreated you. Let's have a pop quiz. Stand up." Marcus rose. The judge barked, "What's the Fourth Amendment say?" The courtroom chuckled. A few even pulled out phones, expecting a viral moment. Marcus blinked, and then spoke. "The Fourth Amendment," Marcus began, his voice calm and razor-sharp, "protects citizens against unreasonable searches and seizures. It ensures that warrants are only issued with probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and must specifically describe the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized." The room went still. Judge Whitaker's smirk faded. Marcus continued, his eyes locked on the bench. "The Fifth Amendment guarantees due process. It protects individuals from self-incrimination and double jeopardy." Now even the court reporter had stopped typing. "The Sixth Amendment ensures the right to a speedy and public trial by an impartial jury and the right to be informed of the nature and cause of the accusation." By the time he reached the 14th Amendment, his voice was rising. "No state shall deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws." He paused. "I may be 17. I may be black. I may come from Eastwood Heights. But I know the law, and I know my rights." The silence was deafening. Even the bailiff looked stunned. Judge Whitaker cleared his throat, rattled. "Well, I see someone's been studying. But it wasn't a compliment. It was a cover-up." The judge tried to shift gears, but the damage was done. The courtroom had just witnessed a young black teen dismantle decades of prejudice in 3 minutes flat. News traveled fast. That afternoon, a courthouse intern uploaded a video clip to social media. Within 24 hours, it had 4 million views. Hashtag Marcus Freeman trended nationwide. Americans were divided. Some saw Marcus as a hero, a young man wrongly arrested, standing tall against institutional bias. Others tried to twist the narrative. He was probably doing something suspicious. Why was he wearing a hoodie? He must have mouthed off to the cops. But Marcus never responded with hate. Instead, he issued a statement. "I don't want to be a viral moment. I want to be a reminder that dignity and knowledge are weapons too. I didn't recite the Constitution to go viral. I did it because I was tired of being seen as guilty by default." Civil rights lawyers offered pro bono support. The charges were dropped within days. But Marcus wasn't done. Marcus returned to school and found himself overwhelmed by media and support. Colleges reached out. Debate tournament invitations flooded his inbox. Even Harvard Law School sent a handwritten note. "You have a seat here, should you choose it." But for Marcus, the real victory wasn't fame. It was knowing that every kid who watched that clip, every black child who ever felt voiceless, now had a blueprint. He began traveling to schools and juvenile centers. He didn't preach. He taught. He told them how to assert their rights respectfully, how to memorize the Constitution, how to speak truth to power without losing your head or your humanity. 1 year later, Judge Whitaker was invited to a panel on youth and the justice system. Marcus Freeman was the keynote speaker. The two met backstage. This time, Whitaker looked uncomfortable. "I didn't expect to see you here," he said. Marcus shook his hand. Firm, steady. "That's the thing about underestimated people, Your Honor. We tend to show up where we're not expected." On stage, Marcus shared his journey. He didn't mention the judge by name, but everyone in the room knew the story. By the end, even Judge Whitaker stood and clapped, not out of pity, but out of respect. Marcus Freeman eventually earned a law degree. He never stopped fighting, not with fists, with facts. He started the No Justice Foundation, a nonprofit that teaches teens their constitutional rights, helps expunge minor records, and trains young public defenders. His motto, "You can't change a system if you don't know how it works." He became one of the most influential civil rights advocates of his generation. But he never forgot that courtroom, or that moment when a judge tried to embarrass him, because that moment made him. They say power is in the gavel. Sometimes it's in the silence. Sometimes it's in the pause before you speak. Sometimes it's in a 17-year-old kid from Eastwood Heights who knew the Constitution better than the man meant to uphold it. Never underestimate the quiet ones. Never assume the worst because of how someone looks, where they're from, or what they wear. Because the day you do might be the day they change the world. If this story moved you, subscribe, share it. Someone out there, maybe a teen, maybe a parent, needs to hear this. Justice isn't about robes or titles. It's about courage, knowledge, and the willingness to stand when the world tells you to sit down.